And welcome to Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. I'm Steve Swatt with the Sacramento Report. In the next few minutes, we're going to talk about whether peace officers who serve on water, lakes, rivers, and ports are adequately trained in this post-9/11 world. My guest this segment is Shirley Weber, who is a member of the State Assembly from San Diego. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
And I know you have a bill that would improve training for peace officers who serve on water. Now, you're not talking about the U.S. Coast Guard because they are trained.
Right. We're not talking about the Coast Guard. We're talking about the local officers who are assigned to areas in the port. California has over 35 ports and harbors, and after 9/11, the security of those ports and harbors have been increased, obviously, because the coast makes us vulnerable. And what has happened is that the recognition that if anything were to happen to our Coast Guards, a second line of defense would be our police officers that are city officers assigned to basically supervise the areas around the port. We want to make sure that they're adequately trained with a proper curriculum that would then allow them to step in very easily into those areas and protect us.
Are you pretty certain that right now they are not adequately trained, because we haven't had any incidents?
Well, they don't have maritime training, and that's what the Coast Guard is concerned about, that there's certain things you need to know about the port, there's certain information you need to be able to give out in a certain manner. You having been there before, know that training is important. Los Angeles pays for their officers to be trained, and so Los Angeles has training at their ports and harbors, but we don't in San Diego, and we don't have most of it up and down the coast. Oftentimes due to funding issues, and so as a result of those funding issues, they're not trained. They're not trained to deal with the issues in case there's a breach in our ports.
So your legislation would require this training, counterterrorism, for example, other subjects, right?
Our recommendation would make that training available. And there are provisions that says it would occur once you receive the funding, and there is now federal funding for it. Before there was a bill to try to do it, but there was no funding source. Now there is a funding source through Homeland Security, which the cities could apply for, and the curriculum they would use would be a course that's 3 courses that are in the maritime training that those officers then would be required to do once the funding has been secured.
Okay. I'd like to segue to another item, because it's another piece of legislation that you're authoring, and it's kind of interesting, where you want to make sure that former inmates, I guess, who served their time,
yes,
are informed adequately that they have the right to vote.
Yes.
That's not going on now?
It's not going on. You know, one of the things I've discovered over the years working with various organizations trying to get individuals to vote and working with some community-based groups as well as some others is that people don't know they have the right to vote, and I guess because the United States is so fragmented in its voting rights laws in terms of who can vote and who cannot, and certain states bar you forever. California does not. California says once that you've served your time and you've completed parole, you then have the right to vote again. When I'm trying to register people, I discover individuals say, I can't vote. I said, why can't you vote? They say, I'm an ex-felon. How long ago was that? 20 years. So 20 years you've lived under the impression that you could not vote. And it's amazing how many people, actually in California, who don't think people can vote once they've committed a crime. But they can. So this is to say to the parole officers that in your exit interviews, when you finish, as you normally do, you give people a right to, once again, to register, to drive a car. You tell them their rights. You make sure they have housing. You make sure they have that. You then tell them that they also have the right to vote, and provide them with the registration card or whatever. They don't have to register, but at least they know at that point in their lives they can register and they can vote
and
again.
Apparently now they're not being told that?
No, they're not. And that's really interesting. They're not. And it's amazing how many persons I've met, even in Sacramento, who are professionals who don't know that they have that right to vote again.
Interesting subject. Shirley Weber, thanks for coming by and talking about both of these subjects, which are fascinating. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it too.
And thanks to our viewers for watching Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. A reminder, you can see this and other interviews on My Government On Demand, also on YouTube. I'm Steve Swatt. Have a great day.